So before I pass over to David to offer a response to what you've heard this morning, I just wanted to open it up to any kind of questions, clarifying questions, or if there's any questions actually, as long as they're not too hard.
That's one question. I was saying, really shocked me was there's no induction program. I mean, I've never started work in any organisation. I've spent 40 years, in various companies. I've never started work without some form of induction program, and I'm gobsmacked that we don't have an induction program.
So
we'd be misleading if we said there's no induction program. There is an induction program in this one, but it's not adhered to or consistently adhered to.
So just to be clear, because that maybe I just picked up the wrong message, which was like there isn't one, but so there is one, but what you feel is that it's just not right, or do you feel it's not implemented? Because it's like, if it's there, but we're not doing it, or is it actually being done, but it's not fit for purpose?
I think for some areas of the service, the induction that you have when you come into a new role is the mandatory stuff that you have to be able to do, the e-learning to get you onto the IT systems, and then once that has happened, that's essentially you are then left to go on get on with your job. In other areas of the service, there will be a week process. You'll be introduced to your team in another way, and you meet other agencies and all of that kind of thing. But it is not consistent across the service, and that is also applies very much so to the, which I didn't mention, but it is up here, to the newly qualified social workers, the assisted and supported year in employment. For some, that has been a very nurturing, supportive introduction into the work that we do. And for others, it has been, and I quote, a baptism of fire. And so in terms of, for us, retaining staff and culturally across social work, people really want to do this job, but actually that first experience of coming into Bucks, you can move from a team where your induction was amazing, and then go into another team and think, what have I done? I've been just left alone to kind of fend for myself as soon as you walk through the door. So it's not consistent at all.
It's really helpful, I would say. That absolute revelation to me. I mean, obviously, I've had previous experience in other companies, and I've always had a proper induction program, I think, almost without exception.
So I think it's worth saying there's kind of obviously two types of induction here. There's one corporate induction, but then there isn't a children and young people service induction that's across the board. And so people's experience of that varies from literally nothing, no probationary period, no induction period, just you've arrived, get on with it, right through to others that have had some good experience.
Because the corporate one I do quite often, and I go along and we have new joiners and whatever, and I found that quite a good program in terms of having sat in quite a few of them. What I didn't realise was there was nothing equivalent, consistent down at the service level, which I find pretty amazing.
I feel sometimes that what the expectation is, especially if you are seen as an experienced social worker, which it's not, it doesn't have to be years and years and years of practice, just a couple will do. And what happens is that actually you're expected to be able to move from one team, say for example children in need, into a kick team, children in care, and you'll know everything and just get on with it. Here's your 20 cases, and you've got a lap review tomorrow in Kent. Sorry.
No, thanks for park it. Are there any other questions?
Can I please ask who the senior management team are? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't know the names of everybody.
Okay, can Carol and her SMT please stand up?
Be recognised.
Starting on my left, we have.
Hang on.
You do know.
Thank you. Perhaps not everyone does that. Steve Tanner, Interim Head of Care Services, Fostering Adoption, Residential Care Contact Services.
Barry Kerwin, Interim Head of Children in Need in North, I also chair the Resource Panel.
Kathy?
Kathy Forbes, Head of Care Management, so that's Children in Care, Children with Disabilities, Aftercare and the Virtual School.
Joy?
I'm Joy and I'm the Head of Family Resilience. I'm also the Families First Programme Lead.
Sarah Harris, Interim Head of Service for Children in Need in the North and for Catch Services. South. Catch Services, thank you.
I'm Diane Davis, Interim Head of service of quality standards and performance.
And I'm Amanda Oborn, I'm the interim head of First Response and MASH.
And I'm Carol Douch, and up until Tuesday I was the interim service director, but I'm now the service director for Children and Family Safeguarding.
So congratulations, Carol.
Are there any more questions to talk about? I don't think.
Could I ask a question? How far did you delve into the hacking model as a working practice within the service, or did you not look at that at all? Because I've heard some very mixed reviews on it, and I was just curious as to whether you explored any of that.
In this workshop over the last 5 days, in terms of going into depth in the methodology?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, we didn't go into in depth in the methodology, but what we absolutely know is that in Buckinghamshire they haven't adopted the Hackney model with fidelity. They have cherry-picked the aspects of it that they wanted to take. I think that's very challenging to do that, because what we know is the Hackney model works because of the way in which it was set up, and the sort of, if you like, the DNA of that model. So to actually take out part of the DNA, you're not going to get the same model. So it's really not the Hackney model in reality. So we didn't delve any deeper than that.
Right.
That's as far as we delved.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Sorry. Just a quick supplementary. Just listening to all the presentations, a lot of it seemed to be experience within bugs, you know, in terms of what isn't quite right here and how we can improve it. Did anybody look at or bring with them experience of having worked elsewhere in terms of, well, when I was in Cambridgeshire or when I was in Hertfordshire or whatever, we did it differently and this really seemed to work? Because I'm always interested in how we can pick.
People absolutely brought their experience into the room, and I think as Ruth and Mark, we also looked at a model that's in Australia as well.
Wow.
By family. And there's lots of other models around the world that you can kind of explore in terms of there's learning dreams in America, family by family in Australia, all sorts of different models. But it's the idea of, particularly chose that model because it very much starts with the idea of let's look at the user experience rather than the professional always deciding. Let's look at the user experience and try and work from that perspective in terms of what their needs are, and then build on that rather than, well, this is our service and we'll fit you into it.
I think it goes to not doing two families but working with them.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, we did. Yes.
I'm not known for being particularly an emotional person, but this week has actually been a very emotional process because I have a much better understanding of my colleagues from social care and the differences between us, but we actually have found that we're working to the same aim. Sorry, I am getting emotional now. I think the way that we feel that working in children and young people's services is that it is actually a vocation. We don't do this to become millionaires. We do this because we care about the families and children in our authority. And that really, we really want to have a holistic and systemic process for us so that we can do our job when we go out there. One other point, you said about, you know, what does this mean for me? Where am I going to work and how am I going to do that? But actually, for us in the room, what we're thinking about is, okay, what does this mean for me? But more importantly, what does this mean for our children and families? What do these changes mean? So, thank you.
I just wanted to say that...
do you want to introduce yourselves? I should have said that.
Have they not? My name's Maggie. I work for Junior Catch in the north. Yeah, the north. I'm in just on a personal level, I feel I've invested massively in this week. It's been really challenging, and like Linda said, it's been quite emotional. And I know, chatting to my colleagues, we know this is the very first step, and we want to feel that we can carry on with that step. We don't want our work to stop now. We want to still be involved in this change process. So we want some sort of recognition that we can still be involved and that our contribution today, we know it's been valuable, we know that, but it will be continued.
And we can look at different mechanisms for that like having a practitioners improvement board that could be one of those mechanisms, but there are also other ways that we can look at staff forums, reference groups, etc. And for you also to take some of these messages and bring them back to your workforce and our partners as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we may have events like this with partners in future. Okay. Okay. Any other comments? Oh, hi, Steve.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of say a bit more about David's thank you. I kind of sat here listening to the presentations, and I thought they were brilliant. They were intelligent, insightful, balanced, measured, well thought through, with loads of practical solutions. So I thought they were fantastic. So really well done to everyone. The second thing associated, I was just blown away with the talent in the room, really. I thought just absolutely overwhelmed by just how good what you said was and how you presented it. And I think that's a brilliant indication for how bright the future is for the organisation and working together as a team. So I thought that was a brilliant indication for the future.